Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out this evening. We'll call to order the City Council meeting for Monday, May 14th, 2018. We're honored this evening to have the VFW Auxiliary Post 1621 here to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. VFW Auxiliary Post 1621, thank you again. In case of an emergency, we request that you exit this room, move toward the main entrance, exit the fire station, and walk to the empty lot on the south side of the parking area. Roll call, please.
All council members are present.
Good. Our first item this evening are the annual Sustainable Janesville Award recognitions, and we have Ryan here to give a presentation. Ryan?
Thank you, Council President Markline, City Council members, Ryan Krzas, Associate Planner. I am proud to present the 2018 Sustainable Janesville Awards. The Sustainable Janesville Committee created the annual award program in 2011 to highlight excellence in environmental innovation, stewardship, and advocacy in Janesville. The Sustainability Awards meet the mission of the Sustainable Janesville Committee, which works to advocate, foster, and advance the collective efforts of city residents, businesses, and government to educate, endorse policies, and ensure implementation of practices that are both environmentally and economically sustainable. Our first award winner is Celadon Logistics. Celadon is making significant efforts in reducing its environmental footprint. Over the past 2 years, they've made investments and established initiatives having a very positive impact. Celadon installed new energy-efficient lighting in their warehouse, replaced old forklifts with high-efficiency battery-operated units, reduced the amount of volume sent to the landfill by 830 yards, recycled 218 tons of cardboard, and set ambitious recycling goals, and arranged pooled transportation for its employees. The Sustainable Janesville Committee is presenting Celadon Logistics an award tonight for their leadership and innovation in sustainable business practices. Our second award goes to Janesville Home and Solar. Janesville Home and Solar specializes in solar energy installation, solar water heating, green insulation options, and rainwater recovery systems. Owner and founder Neil Thompson has over 24 years experience in energy conservation, including 16 years in the Home Performance with Energy Star program. In addition, Neil Thompson brings his involvement of 15 years in solar energy and other alternative energy fields, including solar thermal projects, photovoltaic solar electric installations, ground source heat pump investigation, rainwater systems, alternative fuels, passive solar design, and passive house standards. The Sustainable Janesville Committee is awarding Janesville Home and Solar an award for their sustainable business model. Our third and final award winner is an individual award for Kay and Neil Dupree. Neil is the current president of the Green Rock Audubon Society. Last year, Kay helped organize the Janesville Urban Forestry Alliance tree planting in the 4th Ward. Together, they have partnered with the Parker High School Green Team for restoration work on the city's near south side. Additionally, Neil and Kay have advocated for and have had hands-on on the following projects: Bird City Janesville, the Rockport Garden, Monterey Hillside Restoration, a series of environmental classes with Wilson Elementary Summer School, and River Shoreline Restoration Planning. The Sustainable Janesville Committee is presenting Kay and Neil Dupree with an award tonight for their leadership and involvement in a wide range of sustainable initiatives.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I cannot take this opportunity to say that anything we've done is because there are other volunteers working alongside. And I also couldn't miss the opportunity to invite others to be a part of this volunteer force that accomplishes all these wonderful things. So there, on this sheet, there are contact information about several of the groups that we're involved with, and on the back are some other ideas for things to be involved in as well. So I encourage you to check out things if you have time to spend with being outdoors, and enjoy the opportunity to do that. Thanks.
And we're grateful that our family is here, because sustainability has to do with the seventh generation being able to take things that we're doing and make them last for many generations. And so we're grateful for the Sustainable Janesville Committee's work.
Congratulations once again to all those award winners and those who tried to do it. Better luck next year. It'll make the city better if more people try to make things sustainable. Our next one will be Mercy Health recognition of the Janesville Transit System drivers, and we've got Becca Smith. Welcome, Becca.
Thank you, Council President Mark Line. Rebecca Smith, Transit Director. Recently, Mercy Health contacted me and asked for the opportunity to recognize two of our Janesville bus drivers for their quick thinking and good work when one of our longtime riders was having a cardiac concern. So certainly receiving a request like that is very humbling and something very special to be able to have here this evening at the council meeting. With me this evening is Mr. Eric Abbott of Mercy Health, Mr. Ron Jorth, longtime JTS bus rider and cardiac survivor, a full-time bus driver and Teamsters Union steward Eric Thompson, and full-time bus driver Dan Decker. Also in the audience are several JTS staff members who are here to congratulate and support their coworkers. So with that, I'd be happy to turn it over to Mr. Abbott for some comments from Mercy Health, and then we're going to finish with some comments from Ron Jorth, our cardiac survivor.
Thank you, Council, for letting me publicly recognize these champions of our early heart attack care for recognizing symptoms and taking action by activating our EMS system. The type of heart attack that Ron had was the kind that was an emergency and needed to be have the intervention of a cardiac cath lab, which the time, minutes is muscle, and the time was important. So by the time they called 911, the EMS was able to meet them at the bus station, activate our internal system, and have the cath lab waiting when he came there to open up that vessel. So thank you to Dan and Eric. I'd like to recognize you as early heart attack first responders.
Words of thank you to our Janesville transit system. Words of thank you. I can't stress it enough. If it wouldn't be for them, I wouldn't be here today to thank them and my family who can't be here today. They also want to thank them. And I would also like to thank the Janesville Fire Department for their help and everything. And words of thank you, I can't stress enough, as I said earlier, my family would also like to thank them. And last but not least, I would like to thank the Mercy Health System because, again, words cannot say how much I thank them. My family thanks them. And I am just so grateful for all of the organizations I have mentioned, because I really, truly believe if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to be here today to thank them. Thank you.
Yesterday.
Yeah, thank you.
Lakes a couple
Yeah.
weekends back.
Thank you for sharing your stories, and gratitude to the Janesville Transit Department for a good story here. And it happens every day, I think, almost. Next item, consideration and action on a proposed resolution recognizing outgoing citizen board, commission, and committee members for their loyal and conscientious service to the city of Janesville by resolution number 2018-1534. We're going to hand out the certificates while he's reading the resolution, and we'll do the action afterwards. So, Dave? Maggie first.
I'll be quick, I promise. Maggie's our assistant to the city manager, and tonight we're recognizing outgoing individuals who have either term limited out this year or resigned from service within the last year. These individuals have given countless hours of service to the Janesville community through their service on boards, commissions, and committees. And in total tonight, we're recognizing 16 individuals who have cumulatively given 77 years of service to Janesville. So just a few words about the process. So Clerk Treasurer Godek is going to read the resolution and the names of the outgoing committee members. If you're here tonight, which I know there are a few of you, please come over here to receive your certificate. And then if you could stay towards the front, because at the end we'd like to take a group photo with all of you. And if any of you wish to speak at the end, you have a moment to do so. So Clerk Treasurer Godek.
File resolution number 2018-1534, a resolution recognizing outgoing citizen board, commission, and committee members for their loyal and conscientious service to the city of Janesville. Whereas members of boards, commissions, and committees provide an invaluable service to our city, advising the City Council on a wide variety of subjects by making recommendations on important policy matters. And whereas, without the assistance of the various boards, commissions, and committees, the City Council could give many complex and significant matters only a cursory review. And whereas, serving on a board, commission, and committee is an excellent way to participate in the functioning of local government and to make a personal contribution to the improvement of our community. And whereas the following individuals served on a city board, commission, or committee with their tenure ending during or at the close of the 2017-2018 term. Advisory Committee on Appointments, Ron Combs. Alcohol License Advisory Committee, James Chittick. Golf Course Advisory Committee, Rick Berry. Historic Commission, Madison Adams. Margaret Bostwick. Library Board of Trustees, Margaret Bostwick. Holly Jensen. Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, Craig Herda. Melody Shanahan. Plan Commission, Judy Adler. Edward Madre. Douglas Thorpe. Police and Fire Commission, Michelle Vick. Sustainable Janesville Committee, Dylan Schroeder. Zoning Board of Appeals, Jim Null. Kathleen Schultz. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Janesville to recognize outgoing citizen board, commission, and committee members for their loyal and conscientious service to the City of Janesville.
Time to take action.
I'll move file resolution 2018-1534.
Second.
Got a motion by Council Member Wolf, second by Council Member Gruber to approve. Any comments? Seeing none, please vote. And that motion passes unanimously. Our next item will be consideration and action on a proposed resolution recognizing incoming citizen board, commission, and committee members for their willingness and capability to serve the City of Janesville by resolution number 2018-1538. And if you're here and he calls your, the clerk calls your name, please stand and we'll recognize you that way. Thank you.
File resolution number 2018-1535. A resolution recognizing incoming citizen board, commission, and committee members for their willingness and capability to serve the City of Janesville. Whereas members of boards, commissions, and committees provide an invaluable service to our city, advising the City Council on a wide variety of subjects by making recommendations on important policy matters. And whereas, without the assistance of the various boards, commissions, and committees, the City Council could give many complex and significant matters only a cursory review. And whereas, serving on a board, commission, or committee is an excellent way to participate in the functioning of local government and to make a personal contribution to the improvement of our community. And whereas the following individuals were appointed to serve on a city board, commission, or committee throughout the 2017-2018 term, or beginning at the start of the 2018-2019 term. Advisory Committee on Appointments, Adam Scott Dines, Amanda Harvey. Alcohol License Advisory Committee, Jali Dabri, Ray Spade. Citizens Board of Review, Philip Yass. Community Development Authority, Rudolph Lothery. Golf Course Advisory Committee, Bob Berry, Jim Hawkinson, David Machow Davis, Kenneth Pizzuro. Historic Commission, Miriam Enterline, Jason Klingeman, Timothy Maas, Jackie Wood, Charles Zinn. Library Board of Trustees, Christina Barrett, Sarah Hudziak, David Malchow Davis. Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, Paul Benson, Vanessa Draves, Ann Bidwell Heiser. Plan Commission, Steve Knox, Andrew Udell, Carl Weber. Police and Fire Commission, Jali Dabiri. Sustainable Janesville Committee, Chris Courtney, Wesley Enterline, Joshua Phillips. Transportation Committee, Ellen Subak. Zoning Board of Appeals, David Jackson, Rianne Montagnier, Jennifer Schroeder. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Janesville to recognize incoming citizen board, commission, and committee members for their willingness and capability to serve the City of Janesville.
Thank you very much. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Thanks to everyone who has volunteered to serve on our boards and commissions, and also the volunteers that are not on a formal board. We appreciate all your service also. With that, we'll entertain a motion to approve. Councilmember Gruber.
So move file resolution number 2018-1535.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Gruber, seconded by Councilmember Conley to approve. Any comments? Seeing none, please vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you once again. Our next item, consideration and action on a proposed resolution proclaiming May 2018 as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month in the City of Janesville. It's file resolution number 2018-1542.
File resolution number 2018-1542, a resolution proclaiming May 2018 as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month in the City of Janesville. Whereas Asian and Pacific Islander Americans have made indelible contributions to the history of the United States that include, but are not limited to, serving honorably in the armed forces, fighting for the United States in foreign wars, and advocating for civil rights. And whereas Asian and Pacific Islander Americans have endured hardships, including unjust working conditions, prejudice, and discrimination in some of the darkest times in our nation's history, including the Chinese Exclusion Act, naturalized citizenship ineligibility, the Alien Land Law, anti-miscegenation laws, and Japanese internment. And whereas the Cambodian and Lao refugees who first came to Janesville in the late 1970s and early 1980s sought to escape genocide in their homeland or to seek protection after working for the United States government during the Vietnam War. And whereas Janesville's history and character is shaped by churches and residents who sponsored Cambodian and Lao refugees, supporting them and becoming integral members of the Janesville community. And whereas the Asian American and Pacific Islander community is a fast-growing, diverse population comprised of more than 45 distinct ethnicities and more than 100 language dialects. And whereas Asian and Pacific Islander Americans continue to cultivate, advance, and lead in the fields of art, fashion, business, technology, education, science, government, law, humanities, medicine, sports, and entertainment. And whereas federal law designates May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month in Section 102 of Title 36 of the United States Code, now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Janesville recognizes May 2018 as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month for the purpose of encouraging residents of this city to increase their knowledge about the history, achievements, and contributions made by Asian and Pacific Islander Americans throughout our nation and the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you.
I'll make,
Motion by Councilman,
I move to adopt file resolution number 2018-1542 proclaiming May 2018 as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month in the City of Janesville.
second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Williams, seconded by Councilmember Farrell. Any comments?
No, thank you.
Anyone?
No, thank you.
With that, please vote. And that passes unanimously. And Councilmember Farrell would like to present a resolution to Serena Yu, who is the Chinese Club Advisor and the Chinese teacher at Craig and Parker High Schools here in Janesville. Welcome. Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much. guess not. Next, we have consideration and action on a proposed resolution recognizing the week of May 20th, 2018 as National Public Works Week by resolution number 2018-1536.
Resolution number 2018-1536, a resolution recognizing the week of May 20 through 26, 2018 as National Public Works Week. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Janesville. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees that are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our city's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services, and whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Janesville to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in the city of Janesville. Whereas the American Public Works Association has celebrated the annual National Public Works Week since 1960, now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Janesville that on this 14th day of May 2018, do hereby proclaim the week of May 20 to May 26, 2018 as National Public Works Week, and hereby call upon all citizens and civic organizations to join the city in conjunction with the American Public Works Association in activities and ceremonies designed to recognize the contributions which public works employees make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life.
Thank you. Councilmember Wolf.
I move resolution 2018-1536.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Wolf, second by Councilmember Conley. Any other comments? Anyone? Please vote. And that passes unanimously. And we've got Operations Director John Whitcomb here to receive the resolution and possibly say a word or two.
Well, those of you who know me know I can't pass up an open mic, so I accept this humbly on behalf of the men and women on our Department of Public Works team for the City of Janesville. They serve 365, 24/7 first responders. We're very honored by this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next item will be consideration and action on a proposed resolution recognizing the week of May 13th, 2018 as National Police Week and the day of May 15th, 2018, tomorrow, as Peace Officers Memorial Day by a resolution number 2018-1533.
Resolution number 2018-1533, a resolution recognizing the week of May 13, 2018 as National Police Week and the day of May 15, 2018 as Peace Officers Memorial Day. Whereas the Congress of the United States of America has designated the week of May 13th to be dedicated as National Police Week and the day of May 15th each year to be Peace Officers Memorial Day. And whereas law enforcement officers are our guardians of life and property, defenders of the individual right to be free, and dedicated to the preservation of life, liberty, and justice. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that the members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the Janesville City Council desires to honor the valor, service, and dedication of the police officers that serve the city of Janesville. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Janesville on this 14th day of May 2018 that the week of May 13th to May 19th be observed as Police Week, and call upon all Janesville citizens to especially honor and show our appreciation for the police officers of the city of Janesville by deed, remark, and attitude. And be it further resolved by the Common Council that the day of May 15th be proclaimed to be Peace Officers Memorial Day, and that flags be flown at half-staff on this day in honor of those men and women who have lost their lives in the performance of their duties while protecting their fellow citizens and communities.
Thank you. Councilmember Williams.
I move to adopt file resolution number 2018-1533, recognizing the week of May 13, 2018 as National Police Week and the day of May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day.
Councilmember Gruber.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams, second by Councilmember Gruber, to approve final resolution number 2018-1533. Any comments?
Just every day should be for them.
That's true. Any comments? Seeing no others, please vote. And that passes unanimously, and we're honored to have Officer Justin Stupendick here to receive the resolution and possibly say a word or two.
Stand sideways so I address everyone. On behalf of all the officers at the Janesville Police Department, we'd like to thank City Council, citizens in attendance for the honor recognizing Police Week, and specifically tomorrow, May 15th, as Peace Officers Memorial Day. I can tell you, this is like about my 7th year having the privilege of serving the citizens in Janesville. I can tell you in that time that it's gone from being one of those young officers where every call is cool, every call is exciting, and as time went on, I realized how much this shield right here on my chest actually weighs. So in addition to that, we'd like to thank all the families, especially mine in attendance, for their support also. And again, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Our next item is consideration and action on a proposed resolution recognizing the week of May 20th, 2018 as the Emergency Medical Services Week, file resolution number 2018-1544.
Resolution number 2018-1544. A resolution recognizing the week of May 20 through 26, 2018 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas the emergency medical technicians and paramedics are the first responders of emergency medical services systems, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers in Janesville by designating Emergency Medical Services Week, now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Janesville on this 14th day of May 2018 that the week of May 20th to May 26th be observed as Emergency Medical Services Week, and call upon all Janesville citizens to especially honor and show our appreciation for the City of Janesville Fire Department EMTs and paramedics by deed, remark, and attitude.
I think we have a living example of that earlier this evening. Councilmember Gruber?
I'd move file resolution number 2018-1544, recognizing the week of May 20th, 2018 as Emergency Medical Services Week.
Councilmember Williams?
I'll second.
A motion by Councilmember Gruber, seconded by Councilmember Williams. Any other comments?
I just simply echo what Councilmember Williams said as we just passed the previous resolution. Every day ought to be celebrated as EMS Day within this community. If you have been around in this building this evening at any point in time in the last hour, watched the red lights that have gone off and the response that has taken place. I was absolutely amazed at the number of times that we've dispatched folks out of either this facility or other facilities in just the last hour, and it's with a sense of confidence and pride that I can say that I'm extremely proud to be supportive of EMS Week for a group of people that deserve every recognition in the world.
I just want to say, just over 5 years ago, I had the opportunity to use the fire department. Really didn't want to, but you know, when you can't breathe and your chest hurts and you're sweating. And luckily, I was within our fire district, just outside of Janesville, but when I called 911 and I said, if I'm not in Janesville, I'm just going to get in my truck and make it across the road and make it over, so I'm in Janesville. And they came out. The ambulance wasn't available at that time, but the fire truck showed up, and if you see a fire truck pull up and you're having a heart attack, don't be concerned, because the men and women that are on that fire truck can handle it just as well as the people that come in the ambulance. They're going to take care of you. They hooked me up, found out what was going on, gave me the medicine, and got me to the ambulance got there, got me to the hospital, and fixed me up. So I'm truly grateful for that. Is one of the big pluses for living in a city like Janesville, where if you need police or you need fire and it's an emergency and it's a life and death situation, they're there and you can rely on them. So really want to thank them.
Anyone else? Please vote. And that is unanimous. And whatever crew is still left in the station can come forward and receive it from Councilmember Gruber. Thank you for all you do.
Deputy Chief Mankauskas with the Fire Department. On behalf of the members of the Fire Department, I'd like to thank the council and the citizens of Janesville for your continued support. It was mentioned earlier, within the last 35 minutes, we've had 6 ambulance calls. So as we get to this point, we got the battalion chief and the deputy chief coming up and accepting the award that we'd really like the crews to accept, because it's the work that they do. And I think tonight is a little special for us also, because I think you really see how the system here in Janesville works, right down from the first responders to the ambulance crews to the hospital staff. We have proof right here that our system here in Janesville works. We're a little bit higher with our percentage rate than a lot of the communities in the United States. We have a 48% recovery rate for individuals that have cardiac arrest, STEMI, that are transported to the hospital and have full recovery after the event. So I think that's very special for the citizens of Janesville to know. And like I said, I think we have living proof here tonight that makes us all feel proud to be a member of the department and a citizen of the city of Janesville. So thank you.
Thank you, too. Our next one will be consideration and action on a proposed resolution proclaiming Saturday, May 19th, 2018 as Kids to Parks Day in the city of Janesville by resolution number 2018-1543.
Resolution number 2018-1543, a resolution proclaiming May 19, 2018 as Kids to Parks Day in the city of Janesville. Whereas the city of Janesville is known as Wisconsin's Park Place, and whereas May 19, 2018 is the 8th Kids to Parks Day organized and launched by the National Park Trust, and whereas Kids to Parks Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks, and whereas it is important to introduce a new generation to our nation's parks because of the decline in park attendance over the last decades. And whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat the issues of childhood obesity, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, and hypercholesterolemia. And whereas Kids to Parks Day is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage a large and diverse group of participants. And whereas Kids to Parks Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and the outdoors. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Janesville that the Janesville City Council do hereby proclaim to participate in Kids to Parks Day. We urge residents of Janesville to make time May 19, 2018 to take the children in their lives to a local, state, or national park.
Thank you. Councilmember Conley?
Sure. I would like to move approval of final resolution number 2018-1543, proclaiming May 19th as Kids to Park Day in the city of Janesville.
Second that. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
Well, I think we're really blessed here in the city of Janesville. We have lots of kids and lots of parks, so it makes sense that we would support this resolution today.
Rain or shine. Hopefully it'll be shine. With that, please vote. And that passes unanimously. And we've got Colin Slapak, Parks Director, here to receive this resolution.
Thank you, Colin Slapak, Parks Director. Well, we have plenty of parks, so nobody has any excuses for not getting out on Saturday. But the Recreation Division is having an official Kids to Parks Day at the Arboretum, Janesville School Outdoor Lab. So hopefully people can attend that, and the kids will be able to go in the stream and hike around the property. So thank you.
Thank you. Now we have public comments on items on the agenda not requiring a public hearing and on matters which can be affected by council action. And we'll read your names. Come on up, state your name and your address, and you have a 4-minute limit to make your comments. And open meetings records limits the city council's response to speakers.
Joshua Phillips.
Is that you?
No comment.
Ty Bollerud.
Ted Ballroot, 419 South Walnut Street, Janesville. We look at housing code one way, but we could look at it a second way. We could look at it as banking. In Janesville, I actually set up the certain identifications in the one housing code has identified a way to open up a banking window, a line of credit actually, because certain needs that isn't being conducted through HUD housing. Basically, it's pretty easy. When you file for HUD housing, you might qualify. Your house is built before 1978, and if you income qualify, you're qualified. Okay, so now all of a sudden, now we have to super qualify them or unqualify them. So some people either get super qualified or basically unqualified people because of this, that, or whatever reason. Good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter. The fact that if we had a banking window that was opened up, we could actually leave that up to kind of just natural occurrences kind of happen. A little patch up here, some fix here, some other stuff here. It'd be good for other banking in general because it would hold that market. It would encourage more, I guess, what you call banking service vehicles in the other market as well. And here's the big thing. There's all sorts of misses. I'm in a claim right now with the city, and the city doesn't have any way out of it if the judge rules occupancy from the city was illegal, which he already has. And the city has they have nothing on the table, which is, you know what I mean? Basically, I'm writing both sides. I'm writing for myself and the city. You know, the third floor planning, they told me, hey, it wasn't eminent domain. Okay. Well, let's look at the rules. $500 is the max. And normally you'd say, hey, the city just is feeling tie, didn't like tie. I could get over that. But unfortunately, it's up under the annual plan, the HUD annual plan, which has about 1/4 of all Janesville in slum and blighted areas. That's according to the CDBG board. But 1/4, 25% is slums, blighted, and they got a plan to eliminate slums and blight. I mean, they write it down. We're going to plan to eliminate through eminent domain, but we're not going to write eminent domain because we'd be paying for the property. Most people could, I've had different indications. I'm pretty sure the city doesn't really need my property. So I kind of, it's pretty interesting, them 4 codes. If somebody wanted to start a different banking housing window, they're already there. It's already there. The ability for that line of credit is in them 4 key housing codes. Very interesting. The only thing I want to mention one other thing. This is very interesting, this right here, because of the rail around it. The rail around it lets the Union Pacific spin around and also the Wisconsin Southern spin around. That building helped build the infrastructure that helped the infrastructure build that building. And basically, we don't have an electric grid guy. Once upon a time we did. Once upon a time there's a Janesville Electric Company. Way back, and then it blended into the Wisconsin Power and Light. We don't know anything about grid. The people that bought that place, there's 2 things that they said: awesome rail, awesome grid. We don't even know how to committee the grid or the rail, okay? So basically, we don't have anybody from Janesville in the economic area of looking at the grid or the rail. I mean, it would behoove us because, that building, used to put $20 billion worth of facility or cars away. And now we're tearing it down. We can't figure out why. You should see the infrastructure that's hooked up next to it. That's worth a whole lot of money too. And we will not put it together if we don't know about it. Can't do it.
Thank you.
Ron Jors? Did you want to speak again?
No.
Okay. Ed Spensky?
Ed Spensky, 1411 South Terrace Street. I've been here before, and I'll probably be here again. And part of this that I'm going to speak about is going to sound harsh, and I guess that's the only way to bring the point across. A huge population of the city of Janesville that I have contact through my work, my family, my friends, and my religious affiliations, my church family, seem to think that perhaps the city of Janesville Council is not performing the job that they should be performing. It appears to this group, they put the target on me. You don't see any of them backing me up here. They're far more intelligent than I am, but they're less outspoken probably, and so the target goes on Ed and he can carry it, I guess. The problem that it seems like to us is that when something with a major expenditure or a major revision to the city of Janesville is made, it's made well before it gets to this council meeting. The decision is all made, it comes here, the city manager and the city are controlling the council as opposed to the council controlling the city manager and the city. We hire the city manager to manage our city, but he also works for us, the people, the constituents, and for the city council. And the same thing with the city employees. We have good employees, but it almost, and this may not be true, but it almost seems to us like they're making all the decisions, we're paying the bills, and the council is rubber stamping it. An example was, I've talked about this before, Malky Street, Court Street. I think we're spending money on pie in the sky rather than on necessities. I don't say that we shouldn't grow our community, we could, and we should. but we seem to be spending money in a haphazard manner without any real program. Milwaukee Street, I've mentioned this before, limited reasons for doing that. Court Street, absolutely none. And there's other things. Taking Monterey Dam out, I mentioned that I lived down there, and when the dam got stuck open, there was no water in the river, and we're spending tons of money downtown on the rise thing, and we may have a puddle behind there and no money. The other thing is that the city manager brought up the fact that we sold some property really cheap up by Roosevelt School, and the reason was we have other property for sale, and I mentioned this before, and it wasn't listed. I looked again. I went through the whole city website. I see no listings yet. I looked at a piece of property because I own some property in town that's rental, and my wife and I were looking maybe at our age to expand some. We have a house that is 1309 South Terrace Street that was listed. I called the person that was listed on the play card out in front. She didn't respond to a call. So I went to the company, which was Century 21, finally got a hold of somebody who was very good, met her at the property, and I saw the reason why the original person did not respond. We're listing this house for $93,900, or they are, and I'm sure we gave them some input. This house, at the best, it's got a great garage on it. The house is junk. We've got a $30,000 piece of property that we're putting out there for $93,900. Do we really think that this property is going to sell? You ought to walk through this thing. I'm sure you can look at it because I've seen it on some of the other council persons' appliance. The thing is junk on the inside. But again, you know, I'm probably sounding redundant, and I'm sounding like I'm sour grapes. There's lots of things we've got to be proud of in the city of Janesville, and we certainly covered a lot of them this evening. But I think we need to, if we are doing the job, if the council is doing the job that we and other people don't think they are, it's need to be communicated to us. Somehow we've got to open up channels. The Gazette does very little on reporting on what's going on. The papers, everybody is on their cell phones and computers and stuff. But people in my age group, people are not on that, and we're still taxpayers. And there's a big, huge group of us out there. So here's what I'm going to recommend. Gender unrelated, because we have both genders on the council here. Tomorrow morning when you look in the mirror and do whatever you do the first thing in the morning, say to myself, am I doing the best job for the city of Janesville that I can, or am I rubber stamping this for the city and the city manager? Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Hyde.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Dave Hyde. I live at 1315 Mineral Point Avenue. I'm here this evening representing the Rock County chapter of the National Federation of the Blind. And my comments are going to be a little bit different. A couple of weeks ago, I learned that our city manager has placed in the city budget for the upcoming period an addition to the Janesville transit system, that addition being annunciators for the buses and their ability to connect with GPS to let people know where the buses are. I've lived in Janesville for 15 years, and the only major problem we have had with the JTS system is the fact that drivers, because of whatever reasons, have been unable to remember to announce bus stops or where the bus is. This is going to correct that problem and make those buses much more friendly for both people coming to visit our community, for those who are unable to read, for those who may not be able to see the bus signs, or who may be riding them in conditions where, I don't know, there's some places here in town that street lights just don't shine very well. It has nothing to do with the electricity, it just happens. So I want to thank the city manager and the people at JTS for recommending this addition to our already terrific bus system. And I want to urge the city council members, when this comes up in your budget consideration, please give it favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Rinke.
My name is Mr. Reinke. I'm at 1901 Rockport Road. I'm going to bring up something I think should have been brought up a long time ago. And that's the enforcement of the sound ordinances and the noise ordinances in Janesville. They are not being enforced at all. I live close to an apartment house, and all hours of the night, there's young kids in cars going through there or in and out of that place, playing their boom boxes, windows open in their car, and if you look at that particular ordinance here in Janesville, that's illegal. The other thing is, we constantly have a situation where people have dogs, and I've tried to call the police on them, and I don't get a response that's timely. So in general, it's just, I don't think our noise ordinances are being really looked at by our law enforcement. I've had some excuses, and I'm not knocking the police here. This was one individual that said he had more important things to do than chase an ordinance that he felt couldn't be enforced anyway. And I really don't think that's the way to, if we can't enforce the ordinance, we shouldn't have it. That's, it just makes common sense. And I really don't want to see that sound ordinance taken out. I was successful, by the way, with the city, after talking to our sign people. I finally, again, I'm going to get them to put a no engine braking sign in several places here in Janesville, for the simple reason semis are constantly coming down hills, as an example, on Center Avenue, Rockport Road, all these other ones have, and they use their engines to brake all hours of the night. And you can hear them 2, 3, 4 city blocks away. And that's not really what we should be doing. I mean, these ordinances are there, and in this case, that one, there's signs telling them not to do this, and consequently, they're just up and doing it. And I really think if they get caught at it, as an example on that, I think that there should be some sort of fine hanging there to stop them from doing it. Another one that really bothers me, and it bothers a lot of people in Janesville, are these motorcycles. That's ridiculous. And just so you know, I looked up the state law on this. They cannot have them straight pipes on their motorcycles. They violated the law by taking the catalytic converter off of that motorcycle. Cars are the same way. They want to make a lot of noise, they remove the catalytic converter. And that's wrong, And I think it's no more than fair. If I got a vehicle, I have to have a catalytic converter, and I wouldn't have one without it, that was quiet. And I don't understand why we don't enforce that ordinance or law, whatever you want to call it. And in the case of the motorcycles or cars that are removing the standard mufflers, that's illegal, point blank. You're not supposed to remove the standard equipment that a vehicle came out with. I mean, that law was put into place, I think, in the 80s, something like that. And then I got another little thing I want to mention quick. I really think that we ought to take a very serious look at allowing people to put their garbage cans on the street. I have seen so many of them things hit. And as an example, my wife hit one night. The thing was laying out in the street, and that reflective thing is that you couldn't see it. And so she hit it. Well, she did some damage to our car, obviously. And I really think that if we don't do something about it, that situation is going to get worse, especially when it's windy like it was today. They blow right out in the street after they've been emptied. So, and there's maybe the person isn't home, so consequently they don't know it. So if we do something about them, like either fixed to the road, or my suggestion is to have a concrete flat platform right along the curb that they could park the thing on and hook it down with a strap if they have to or whatever, but something that's just going to give maybe a light rope that when the guy goes to pick it up, it just breaks. But as far as leaving them go setting along the road, I'm not the only one that's brought this up. I talked to the Janesville Police about it too. And they said to get a hold of you people. That's exactly what they said.
Thanks for doing
But I appreciate something could be done about those items, especially the sound ordinance. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Cullen?
Hello, I'm Tim Cullen, Vice President of the Rock Aqua Jays. I live at 1917 North Parker Drive, and I'm the Vice President for this year. I was President the last 4 years. I'm here tonight not to ask you for anything, but to say thank you. So thank you very much for your majority funding of the bleachers that you gave to us, and they're already up. If you haven't been down there yet, please drive through, and you will notice the big difference that they have in that place. It's one of those things where when people are asking me about it, I was trying to explain the city's helping us, which is great, but it's really not money for the Rock Aqua Jays. It's for the people who come to see the Rock Aqua Jays shows or the events or the tournaments, the people who come to Janesville to see the tournaments we host or the 4th of July event, which is fantastic. And if you haven't seen the 4th of July event, that's huge down there. So please stop down and take a look. The company who puts them up is from Texas, and when we were approaching our majority of our share of the funding, we said, okay, we might make it by May. Keep us in mind if you have an opening. And then they called us right after our fundraiser a couple weeks ago, and they said, we have an opening. Do you want it? We said, sure. And they said, we'll be there in 2 weeks. And they were done within 4 days. It was amazing. The guy had to be in Montana on Monday morning. They finished up here on Saturday a couple weeks ago. It is fantastic. I'll leave you a brochure real quick. And this is a quick brochure just to say thank you again. We really appreciate the support we get from the city. It's second to none. Other teams out there are envious of what we get and earn, but it's just a lot of fun. If you look at the center picture there real quick, you can see how much different the bleachers are. The center picture has the old bleachers, and you can see how much safer they are now with netting or fencing on the side, handrails up the middle, handicap seating down front. It's fantastic. It completes a nice phase of overall improvements we're trying to make for our guests down there. I think the only thing I was going to leave you with is, besides that, and a big thank you, and I will ask for one thing, and that is if you could stop making it rain, that'd be wonderful. So thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's all.
Is there anyone else that came in that would like to address the council before we close this? Seeing none, we'll move on then. City manager update with City Manager Mark Freitag.
Good evening, council members, ladies and gentlemen. Some things that we thought you might be interested in. First of all, this past month we celebrated Volunteer Appreciation Week. We did a volunteer appreciation celebration right here in this room. We keep talking about all the volunteers and what they do for our community. And, the reality is we just couldn't do what we do in the city without volunteers. But just as a data point, I think this is just amazing. But in 2017, the Senior Center had 74 volunteers that completed almost 8,500 hours of service, volunteer service for the community, for the city. And so, we can put a dollar amount on that based upon this independent sector's value for volunteers. And what that means is those 74 volunteers contributing $8,500, brought over $200,000 in value through their service to the city of Janesville by what they contributed working at the Senior Center. And so, you think about, you expand that to all the work that goes on in our parks, all the work that goes on in the downtown, all the work that goes on in support of our housing programs, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's a lot of value added to our community. And so I just wanted to share with you all that, the volunteers, we just couldn't do it without them. And so if you're a city volunteer, we appreciate what you do. If you're not, we encourage you to sign up. Next thing, just a good news story that our city was able to sponsor and host. But we had Parker High School reached out to the city and said, hey, we have some special needs students that we would like to bring to City Hall and give them a tour of what happens in City Hall so that in their future they are able to, both on a professional and a personal basis, come to City Hall and take advantage of the services programs that are offered in City Hall. And so staff from the city manager's office was able to take them on a tour of City Hall. They did that April 18th and May 2nd. And just a great way to, one, interact with our student population and, essentially bring them together with our city government. And so it was a testimony to them, but also to the city manager's office staff that coordinated that. So that was a good news story. There's been some discussion tonight about housing and urban development program funding. Part of that is what we call CDBG, Community Development Block Grant funding. But we've been waiting to get our official numbers for 2018, and we recently received that official notification, and it's great news for the community. So we saw an 8.6% increase in CDBG funding, and then a 43.6% increase in home funding. Now, the city doesn't see all 43.6% of that increase in home funding because we're part of a larger consortium of communities. But in both cases, there are communities across the nation that are losing, and in this case, Janesville's winning. And so that's a great news story to the materials that our Neighborhood and Community Services Department and our Housing Services Department or division provide as part of that annual application. And so some of the things that that money will go to is rehabilitation loans for any housing hazards that are in the community, helping nonprofit agencies to provide basic essential services to those in need, assisting low income for those first-time buyers, if they're buying a home, et cetera, and the list is on the slide. But it's a great news story for the community. Just wanted to share with that with everyone. Also, it's that time of year again. Our aquatics facilities are getting ready to open up, and so if you look at the slide, you'll notice that if you go to our city website /aquatics, it'll take you to that homepage that's listed there, and then you can drill into any one of our aquatics programs: Lions Beach, the Palmer Park Wading Pool, Riverside Park Splash Pad, or Rockport Pool to learn more about hours open, any fees associated with attendance, rules that are in place, et cetera, et cetera. But it's that time of year again, and so we want to make sure that everybody's spun up on what our aquatics programs are looking like. Upcoming events, as we've talked about earlier, the Peace Officers Day in the city of Janesville is tomorrow, but our JPD is hosting a community-wide, open to certainly everybody in Rock County, but it's a memorial ceremony for law enforcement. It'll be at Rotary Botanical Gardens on Thursday evening at 6 p.m. And the coordination of that rotates from the Sheriff's Department to the Beloit PD, Janesville PD, and then just keeps working it. And so it's Janesville's opportunity to host that event. It's always a very nice ceremony, and so I encourage folks to come on out to Rotary Botanical Gardens and do that on Thursday evening. On May 19th, that's Saturday, so here in our downtown is the Rock River Wine Walk downtown. That's from 1 to 5 p.m. I encourage you to check that out. And then, as Mr. Slapak mentioned, we've got National Kids to Parks Day going on at the Arboretum from 2 to 4 p.m. Saturday afternoon. Encourage people to come out for that. And then looking forward to the Memorial Day weekend, don't forget May 28th, that's Monday, a Memorial Day itself. There's a parade at 11 a.m. Starts out up here at the Armory, goes down Milwaukee Street to North Main, and then heads north up to Traxler Park and finishes at Traxler Park. And somewhere between 11:30 and noon, the official memorial ceremony begins at Veterans Plaza. And so we encourage the community to come out and remember those who have fallen in the line of duty to this nation. June 1st, we've got I can't see that real quick. Oh, there we go. The Taste of Carnegie at the Senior Center. It's a fundraiser. Encourage folks to come on out and take a look at that and participate. And that begins at 6 p.m. So the Taste of Carnegie at the Senior Center. And then June 2nd, something that the community's been working on now for almost 5 years officially, and that is the restoration of our Oak Hill Chapel. That was proposed to be demolished, and we had community group, the Friends of Oak Hill Chapel, that formed, stood up, collected money, well over $40,000, and then contributed services in kind and donated supplies, along with about $60,000 of city funding. And over the past 5 years, we've seen that chapel transform. And so on June 2nd, the city, in conjunction with the Friends Group, are going to celebrate this great achievement and the addition or return, if you will, of this historic building back to our inventory of beautiful buildings in Janesville. So that's out at Oak Hill Chapel. It goes from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The official ceremony will be at 10:30. Don't forget, JPD hosts an annual bike rodeo that goes on at Wilson Elementary School from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. June 5th, our Main Street Entertainment Series begins with Uncommon Wealth. They'll be playing at the Roth Pavilion at 7 p.m. and then essentially every Tuesday for the next 6 weeks, 7 p.m. there's another concert going on at the Roth Pavilion. And then finally, June 8th, interestingly, that's called 608 Day. So June 608, our area code 608 on June 8th. And Downtown Janesville Incorporated is essentially holding a bunch of different activities to bring people to our downtown and to celebrate our downtown. One of the pieces that the city is involved in is that will be our ribbon cutting ceremony for our outdoor fitness court that has been sponsored by the National Fitness Campaign, SSM Health, and the city of Janesville. That ceremony will begin at 1 p.m. and we encourage everybody to come out to that. As always, remind everybody to stay connected to the city of Janesville. During the month of May is the Recreation Division essentially laying out all of our spring and summer programming. We encourage you to check that out on JATV or on Charter Channel 994, which is our TV station. You can sign up to receive emails. We'll push information to you. If you go to our website /email list, give us your email list or email address, and we'll just push the information to you. Call us at the City of Janesville, 755-3000, or you can contact the City Manager's office at 755-3177. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, receive emergency updates via Nixle from the JPD. If you scan the QR code, it'll take you to that website that allows you to sign up for our email pushes. And then lastly, just go to the website and visit the different things on the website. A lot of information there, more than I think anybody would really care to dive into, but it's certainly there and available for you. And so with that, any questions? That's all I have this evening.
Any questions of City Manager? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Next items will pass under consent unless requested. Item number 14, City Council meeting minutes. Our regular City Council meeting of April 23rd, 2018, and our special City Council workshop of April 23rd, 2018. Our licenses and recommendations are consideration and action to establish a 5-year schedule for reviewing City Council policy statements. Final certified survey map 18008-C, Advantage Land LLC, 4 lots along Paramount Drive. Final certified survey map 18013-C, Advantage Land LLC, 1 lot along Henry Circle. Consideration and action authorizing the administration to deny a liability claim from Cindy Gavin and Steve DeWitt in the amount of $6,863.41. Item number 20, consideration and action authorizing the administration to deny a liability claim from Jerry Flood in the amount of $8,500. 21, consideration and action authorizing the administration to deny a liability claim from Martin Family Management LLC and Larry and Rena Martin in the amount of $13,533.90. And item number 22 we'll pull from consent and consider that separately. Is there any other ones that somebody would like to see pulled and separated? Councilmember Farrell?
Yes, I would request that item 16, consideration and action to establish a 5-year schedule for reviewing City Council policy statements be taken off the consent agenda.
Is there any other ones? Seeing none? Councilmember Farrell?
Right. First of all, I want to say that it's an excellent idea and process the city is going through. I just have a question. Meg, can you explain briefly what the goal of this is and how many policy statements and what the city will be recommending?
Sure. There are 57 City Council policy statements currently. The purpose of setting this routine schedule is basically, so we get all 57 of those on a consistent schedule for being looked at. And that's not to say that staff or the council has been derelict in looking at policies, but I think that having them be brought to the council and we bring forward any recommendations for changes, or just, we recommend that no changes be made, makes that official, makes everybody on the same page.
Okay.
So that is the intent, and putting them on a 5-year schedule, we thought was reasonable, given the number of policies and how often we think they should be looked at.
Okay. I support the process and what the city is going to do. What I would like to do is, I want to make a motion. I move to approve the 5-year city council policy statement review schedule with an amendment that policy number 59, which is communication between this administration, city council, be moved to 11/12/18 and be switched with policy 30, which is installation of streetlights, and that be moved to the 12/9/19. So what I'm basically making a motion is to switch the timing on 2 policies.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Farrell, seconded by Councilmember Gruber. Councilmember.
Right. My reasoning for this, I feel that this policy is a really crucial one. I think it's got a great deal of importance. I think it's woefully, as Ms. Dar has indicated, many of our policies are very outdated. This one, when you talk about communications, it's not even in the area of emails or anything. I think it would be appropriate to discuss this in November, because in December, we're going to review, correct me if I'm wrong, the city manager evaluation. Is that correct?
It hasn't been determined yet.
Okay, it has not been determined yet, but I guess what I'd like to do is see this moved up earlier, because I feel it's has a high priority.
Just to clarify, the policy on city manager performance and compensation evaluation is scheduled on this schedule for December of this year. However, that's
review it?
the policy.
Just the
That
policy.
is separate from the ad hoc committee's
Understood.
work.
Okay.
But no issues from staff on flopping those 2.
Right, and I just feel, it's got a much higher priority. I think the city manager, the council, and the citizens would benefit. I think just putting it in either the city recommends certain changes in it, or I certainly think that would be appropriate. So that's my feeling on it, just merely to change the timing on these. That's all I have on this.
I really don't have a lot more to add, other than as I read through the policies, in particular Council Policy 59, and it's in need of modernization. And in that process, I think it will be beneficial across the board to do it sooner than later. The issue of Council Policy 30, I think, is a lesser priority. It's had attention, and it's something that's worthy of consideration in a frankly a different time frame. And if I'm hearing you correctly, Maggie, that staff has no objection to making the flip-flop, and so I'm happy to support Councilmember Farrell's motion and amendment.
Councilmember Conley.
Thanks. I just want to say I'm glad to see that we have a schedule to review policies. The council did talk about this last June, I believe, at one of our workshops. And so it's great to see that you've come up with the list, and I certainly support the flop. Thanks.
Anyone else? With that, we have a motion by Councilmember Farrell and seconded by Councilmember Gruber to adopt the 5-year schedule with the switching of priorities of 59 with number 30. With that, please vote. And that passes unanimously. The next one that we pulled was number 22, consideration and action to confirm the council president's council member appointments to the ad hoc committee of members. There is no city recommendation on that. It is the wishes of the council, so I'm asking what the wishes of the council is for this item.
I would move to approve action on the council president's council member appointments to the ad hoc committee of members.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Gruber, seconded by Councilmember Conley. Anyone else? It was my wishes also that Councilmember Conley would chair that committee in addition to what we had on here. With that, please vote. And that passes unanimously. That's all for our consent items. Now we're into old business. Second reading, public hearing and action on a proposed ordinance repealing term limits for Board of Review members in the city of Janesville. Second reading, please.
Ordinance number 2018-721, an ordinance amending section 2.20.010B of the Code of General Ordinances to eliminate the term limits for members of the Board of Review.
And there's a public hearing on that, so we'll open a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to address the council and the city on this item is welcome to step forward. Second call. Third call. We'll close the public hearing. What is the wishes of the city council? Councilmember Gruber.
I would move to adopt file ordinance number 2018-721.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Gruber, second by Councilmember Conley. Any comments?
I just would suggest that I concur totally with the logic behind the change, and it makes good sense for us to proceed in this fashion.
Nothing.
Seeing other comments, please vote. And that passes unanimously. Our next item, second reading, public hearing and action on a proposed resolution naming the pickleball courts as the Jim Clark Memorial Pickleball Courts. File resolution number 2018-1504. Second reading, please.
Resolution number 2018-1504, a resolution supporting the naming of pickleball courts as the Jim Clark Pickleball Courts.
Jim Clark Memorial.
Jim Clark Memorial Pickleball Courts.
I'll change what this says.
We'll make the motion to be clear. Yeah. Cullen, you want to give a discussion on this?
Good evening, Cullen Slapak, Parks Director. The Janesville Pickleball Group requests to name the soon-to-be constructed pickleball courts at Riverside Park after Jim Clark. Mr. Clark was a Janesville resident who taught elementary physical education and later became a guidance counselor and tennis coach in the high schools. Upon retirement, Mr. Clark and his wife wintered in Arizona, where he began playing the game of pickleball, and he's known by the group as the person that brought the game back to Janesville. So in accordance with Council Policy 94, the requesters submitted the official paperwork. Official notice was given to the City Council on February 12th, and that started the 90-day waiting period for additional name submittals. At this time, no additional names have been officially submitted for consideration. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee gave a positive recommendation for the naming, and after the public hearing, the city recommends adoption of file resolution 2018-1504, naming the Riverside Park Pickleball Courts the Jim Clark Memorial Pickleball Courts. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from staff?
Just to clarify one thing, Mr. Clark passed away?
He did in 2013.
2013. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. With that, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone in the public that wishes to address this is welcome to step forward. I saw the T-shirts, so I knew there was at least one, maybe two.
Good evening. My name is Ed Street, and I'm the secretary of the Janesville Pickleball Club. It's my honor to tell you a bit more about Jim Clark, in whose honor our new pickleball courts are being named thanks to your vote tonight. I was a longtime English teacher at Craig High School, and my favorite author was Mark Twain. One time, Mr. Twain was asked by a representative of an organization if he'd give a speech to the man's organization. And Mr. Twain said, "Well, how long would you like me to speak?" The man replied with a question of his own. "Why? Does that make a difference?" "Well, yes," Mr. Twain replied. I sometimes go into my Twain voice, so sorry. "If you wish me to speak for 5 minutes, it would take me a month to prepare. If you'd like me to speak for 20 minutes, I could be ready in about a week. And if you'd like me to speak for 3 or 4 hours, I'm ready right now." Mark Twain put a high premium on the words he used, trying to employ just the right ones to express what he wanted to say. I have had some time to collect my thoughts about Jim Clark, and I have asked some questions and done some research in an attempt to get my facts straight. So I hope you will not mind if I read what I have to say, so I can be sure to get in all the pertinent information about this truly remarkable man. I could easily speak on the subject for 3 or 4 hours, but I promise you I will not. But I hope that you will listen to what I have to say, and who knows, maybe even be inspired. An excerpt from Jim Clark's obituary from 5 years ago said, "On June 20th, 2013, James I. Clark went home to his Heavenly Father. He died just as he lived, with dignity, grace, selflessness, and gentle strength. His loving wife of 55 years, Patricia, was at his side, along with their family, all of whom he cherished. Jim Clark was born in Janesville, attended Janesville schools, and graduated from Janesville High School in 1951. He attended UW La Crosse, where he played on the basketball team for 4 years as he pursued his degree in education, which he earned in 1955. Jim took a teaching job in Galesburg, Illinois for 1 year before returning to Janesville, where he took a teaching job at Roosevelt Elementary School as a physical education teacher, a job which he kept for 6 years. During those years, Jim continued his education, and he earned a master's degree from UW-Madison in 1960. When a physical education and guidance counselor job opened up at Janesville High School in 1963, Jim took a position which he kept for 31 years, retiring after 38 years in education in 1994. He also served as a high school tennis coach for a number of those years. Jim was a pillar of strength in the Janesville community. He served his church as president of the school board at St. John Vianney. He was an active member of the Golden K Kiwanis Club for decades. He served as an officer of the Janesville Education Association. He was an active member of the Janesville Tennis Association, and he was a member of the local START Board of Directors and the Beginnings Group Home Board of Directors. He was a public address announcer at Monterey Stadium for many years for football games. And he impacted thousands and thousands of high school students, helping them in all the ways that school counselors assist adolescents in their progress to becoming as successful adults in their lives and in their communities. Jim and Pat were proud children of 5 remarkable children. Just a few highlights will illustrate that fact. Daughter Nancy was an outstanding high school tennis player, coached by her dad. And she has 2 daughters who were also outstanding tennis players in high school. One went on to become a member of a championship tennis team at UW-Whitewater. Daughter Chris was also a good high school tennis player, coached by her dad, who went on in adulthood to compete in ultra-marathon running events at national and international levels. Son Joe qualified for the state tennis tournament under Jim's coaching, and while a student at UW-Madison, he served as a manager for the Badgers basketball team. That voluntary position led him to a career in basketball, and for the last 35 years, Joe has worked for the San Antonio Spurs NBA team, where he is currently a vice president and proud possessor of 5 NBA championship rings. Son Dan chose baseball over tennis at Craig, and then he went on to play baseball and basketball at Ripon College, where he was inducted into their Athletics Hall of Fame in 2003, and he was inducted into the Janesville Sports Hall of Fame in 2012. And Dan's son, Jimmy, played 4 years of varsity basketball at Trinity University in San Antonio. And son Patrick chose golf over tennis in high school, and he went on to become a PGA golf professional. His first job was at Janesville's Riverside Golf Course, and then he went on to become head golf pro at a course in New Berlin. Patrick now lives in Nashville with his family, and he has a daughter who is currently playing softball at Rhodes College in Memphis. These 5 children and their spouses have given Jim and Pat 11 grandchildren, and Jim and Pat were very proud of all of them. On a personal note, when I began teaching English at Craig High School in 1972, I soon realized what a wonderful colleague, professional educator, and mentor Jim Clark was. I began to look up to him as a role model, both as an educator and as a person. As head counselor at Craig, Jim explained policies and procedures and was the ultimate person to provide answers to questions for faculty and students. In that position, his demeanor was characterized by good humor, patience, and caring. He had a wonderful, self-deprecating sense of humor, and he started off every meeting with a humorous story or anecdote. Jim was a wonderful storyteller. Everyone at Craig shared my admiration and respect for Jim Clark. It's with great pride and fond memories that I recall our many adventures on the golf courses of southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois, often along with Bob Suter and Bob Altman. Over 2 decades, we were a regular weekly foursome. You can learn a great deal about a person's character on the golf course, said Arnold Palmer. And it's absolutely true. And everything I ever learned about Jim Clark out there made me like and admire him even more. Bob Suter gave a moving tribute to Jim at a Craig Athletic Boosters gathering shortly after Jim's death. And I remember hearing Bob say, "I have never heard anyone say anything negative about Jim Clark." Bob was absolutely right. After Jim's and Pat's retirement, they began spending winters in Arizona, where they eventually bought a house near a golf course and a tennis court. But they still spent their summers in Janesville. One summer, Jim came back very excited about a new game he had been introduced to in Arizona. The new game, with the unlikely name pickleball, was great fun and good exercise, Jim claimed. To help us understand what he was talking about, Jim organized a clinic featuring a nationally acclaimed pickleball expert, Mark Friedenberg, who, along with Jim and a few volunteers, demonstrated how the game was played. This clinic, which was held on a Palmer Park tennis court in 2008, was attended by about a dozen of us. From that humble beginning in Janesville, the Janesville Pickleball Club has grown to our current membership of over 100. Jim was helped by Dick Larson, Dave Scholmeyer, Jody Roberts, and others to offer opportunities to play pickleball in Janesville. During good weather months, members have used tennis courts at the Marshall Middle School, Craig High School, and Riverside Park, as well as playing in the gym of the Janesville Athletic Club 7 days a week, year-round, using portable nets. Most of the outdoor play in recent years has been at Riverside Park. More and more, it became clear that the surface deterioration was getting so bad on the courts that future play would be difficult, if not dangerous. So the idea of constructing new dedicated pickleball courts at Riverside Park began taking form. Through the pledges of our members and the financial backing from some local individuals and businesses, along with the cooperation and support of the City of Janesville, this dream is becoming a reality. If all goes according to plan, we will be playing on the new pickleball courts this summer. I have no doubt that the numbers of pickleball players in Janesville will increase, as this new facility will draw the curious to try it out, and many of them will almost inevitably become addicted to this great sport. I know that would make Jim Clark pleased. My wife and I spent a couple of weeks in Ireland and Scotland in April. We noticed that there was a statue honoring somebody's memory on almost every corner in Dublin and Edinburgh. We don't do that kind of thing very much in this country anymore, but occasionally we figure out an appropriate way to recognize someone's contributions and to honor his or her memory. I could not be more pleased and proud that these new courts will recognize and honor the memory of Jim Clark. The Jim Clark Memorial Pickleball Courts has a wonderfully appropriate ring to it. Jim gave a lot to this community and to all the people he touched in his professional and personal lifetime. It's great that we can say, "Thanks, Jim," in this way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council? Second call. third call. We'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Wolf.
I'll move file resolution 2018-1504.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Wolf, seconded by Councilmember Williams.
Just a couple brief comments. There's probably nothing I can add that Mr. Street didn't say, but he described Jim very well as dignified, gracious, selfish, selfless, and very strong man. I happen to have been a neighbor of his when we first moved into our house, and about 10 years ago we had a neighborhood block party, and Jim cornered off a little bit of the parking area and introduced us all to pickleball. And I guess I didn't know how much younger I was than him until tonight. And since we graduated from high school 20 years apart, I assume he'll be 20 years older. He would have been 20 years older than I, and he taught us all to play pickleball. So he says, come on over here, Wolf, I'll teach you how to play pickleball. And I'm thinking, this will be easy. I mean, this guy's 20 years older than me. Well, he served the first serve, boom, it was by me. Second serve by me. Never learned how to play pickleball, but the neighborhood enjoyed the party very much. And with that, I'm honored to support this resolution for a very gracious, dignified man.
Councilmember Williams.
As a Craig graduate, and luckily I didn't have to go see the counselor very often, but I just have to say what everybody else has said. I've never heard anything bad ever mentioned about Mr. Clark. And hopefully within a year or so we can have Jim Clark Memorial Pickleball Courts number 2 and 3 and some of the other parks and bring it to other sides of town. So excited to see this happen. You know, the tennis courts down there are starting to deteriorate, and we can get more pickleball courts in the same area that we have the tennis courts, and we'll at least have something that's being used and enjoyed. So good luck. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing that, we have a motion by Councilmember Wolf, seconded by Councilmember Williams to name the pickleball courts the Jim Clark Memorial Pickleball Court. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you for all your efforts and your testimonial for Mr. Clark. Very well. Thank you. New business, item number 1, consideration and action on a proposed resolution authorizing the issuance of $21,905,000 in promissory notes for financing various public purposes. File resolution number 2018-1534. Mr. Gagan.
Thank you, Council President Markline. Max Gagan, Finance Director. Before you tonight is a resolution to authorize the issuance of $21,905,000 in promissory notes. But before I talk about the note issue, I want to talk about our capital improvement plan first, just to give the council some perspective. So next slide. So the city's capital improvement plan for 2018 is $38 million. Of that, 58% is coming from this debt issuance, 11% coming from prior year note issuances, money that has been saved from prior projects, and then 31% from other funding sources, which runs the gamut from operating budget, grants, donations, and of this sorts. Next slide. So tonight, asking the City Council to approve file resolution 2018-1537, which would authorize the issuance of non-taxable promissory notes in the amount of $21,905,000 for various purposes. So a little bit of details on our issuance before you tonight. New debt makes up the full amount of that, so it's $21.9 million. Of that, the general fund debt, which is paid through property taxes, is 8.1%, or 8.1 million. The non-general fund portion is 13.8 million, and the City Council, through prior actions, has committed 19.3 million. Additionally, there is no refunded debt as part of this. We did have 2 notes that were callable. We did testing on them. Short-term interest rates have really increased in the past 90 days, and it does not make sense to refund those at this time. We wouldn't realize any interest savings. And then lastly, all the debt is amortized based off an asset's useful life. Next slide. So to give the council some perspective on the projects that are included in the capital improvement program, as well as what we're asking for with the note issuance, the largest item being our street program, with $7.4 million, and that would actually be $8.6 million if we included our prior no proceeds. Our wastewater, water, and stormwater infrastructure improvements at $7.4 million, the Arise Town Square improvements at $2.1 million, City Hall and library improvements at $1.8 million. So just out of those 4 programs, about $18.7 million of note issue borrowing, which is about 85% of all new debt. Next slide. Next, talk a little bit about the general fund issuance. As I mentioned, that's the portion that's paid through the property tax levy. So that's equal to $8,086,000. We estimate the average annual debt service payment to be $931,000. And we project for 2019, our debt service payment would increase $475,000. Because we're adding new debt, we're also retiring debt as well. So that's kind of the net addition to our debt service, which would project to about a 1.5% increase in our general fund's property tax levy. And the projected tax increase for the average assessed home would be $14.28. Next slide. Additionally, I want to talk about the debt burden. So the debt burden is measured as the total general obligation debt outstanding for the community. And this is a measure that's utilized by both the state of Wisconsin as well as by S&P to figure out how much debt you have and part of your credit rating. So at the end of 2017, we have $91,895,000 in debt, which as a percentage of our equalized value is about 2.21%. State statute limits our debt to 5% of our equalized value. So we're about at 40 to 45%. So we did have a principal payment on February 1st of this year, and that was $16,605,000. So we retired $16.6 million this year. If we went forward with the issuance before you tonight, the outstanding GO debt as of the end of this year would increase to $97,195,000, which is an increase of $5.3 million. However, one thing of note is that the percentage of our debt compared to our equalized value would actually decrease 0.1% because our equalized value has increased 11% in the last year. So although the total debt burden would increase with this issuance, the percentage as compared to our property values in the community would actually go down. Next slide. So additionally, when we're preparing our note issuance every year, we look at what does the council policy on debt management say? And there's really 2 limiting factors in there. First being limiting the percent of debt as a measure of equalized value. As I mentioned, state statute limits it to 5%. The city council has limited it even further to 2.5%. This issuance, we would be at 2.11%. And then second, we look at the general fund debt service payment as a percentage of total expenditures. And the reason to do this is that we want to make sure that what we're paying in our debt service payment, which are essentially for prior obligations, isn't too large, so we're paying more for current obligations for today's expenditures. So the council policy limits that to 20%, and with this issuance, we project to be at 18.5%. Next slide. Also, just want to give the council some perspective on last year's issuance as well as our 5-year history. So last year's issuance was $18.8 million. The general fund portion of that was $7.5 million, non-general fund $11.3 million, and our 5-year average on our note issuance is about $19 million, about 7.4 on the general fund side, 8.5 on the non-general fund side, and then we typically have been refinancing debt, especially in the past few years when interest rates are really low, but I just don't foresee us being able to refinance debt in the foreseeable future, just given where interest rates are going. So, next slide. So just talk a little bit about the process. So tonight before you is the initial resolution. So at this time, the council has the opportunity to either add or delete projects or funding before the resolution's adopted. And then once it's adopted, staff will prepare the details resolution, which the city council at that time can approve it as is, or they can delete projects So of note, no new money can be added after tonight's adoption of the initial resolution. Next slide. And then lastly, we'll come back on June 25th. We'll open up bids for the sale and ask the City Council to award the sale of the promissory notes to the lowest bidder, establish interest rates, and agree to levy taxes to cover payments. So as part of your materials for tonight, there are 3 exhibits. If you would like, I can go into further details, but one's just a schedule of all projects included. Everything in green that's highlighted in green has been approved by the City Council already. Number 2 is just a detailed descriptions of the projects included in the capital improvement program. And then number 3 is just a copy of Council Policy 75 on debt management. So pending any questions, with that, I would recommend the City Council approve the 2018 capital improvement program by adopting file resolution number 2018-1537 to issue $21,905,000 in promissory notes. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Gagan? Councilmember Farrell.
Mr. Gagan, I just have a question. As you may know, I'm on the library board too, as the Hedberg Library Board, and the replacement of the roof for Hedberg, it's $383,000. Was that on our original capital plan, at 300, or did that just be was that revised, or?
Yeah, no, so that's an excellent question, Councilmember Farrell. So the Hedberg Public Library's roof replacement was on the original 2018 major capital projects budget. At the time, we had an estimate for it of $600,000. On May 2nd, we opened up bids and they came in favorable. One of our first that was lower than our projected budget. So, but that contract award will be before you at the next council meeting.
Okay, now as far as the handling of that 383, does that go through like the library fund, or is it just paid from the city directly to the contractor? Is that how that works, or does it go through the library fund, or I'm just kind of curious how that would work.
So this project will be treated as a city project, so it goes through our capital projects fund. So we have a sub-account in our capital projects fund, and that's being managed by the engineering division staff.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Gagan?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the 2018 capital improvement plan as proposed through the adoption of file resolution 2018-1537, authorizing the issuance of $21,905,000 in promissory notes for financing various public purposes.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Williams, second by Councilmember Gruber. Councilmember Williams?
Just noting that this comes back to us again where we can delete projects, and this is just kind of our normal operating procedures.
Mm-hmm. Just the only observation I want to make is the fact that municipal financing is incredibly complex compared to the type of personal financing one would do in your household. You're dealing with multiple income sources, you're dealing with state limitations on what you can or cannot do, that we have then imposed greater limitations on ourselves to make it even more challenging. If there's any sage advice, I guess that would be that we really need to spend some time to help the general public better understand the difference between our capital improvement plan and our capital budget, and how it's formulated and why it's formulated in the fashion that it is, as opposed to how our operating budget functions, to see if there's any hope of clarifying a lot of the misconceptions I hear as I talk to people across the community. As I looked at the numbers are very responsible. We're making some rather significant investments and plans for investments in what have been priorities established by the council, in particular as it relates to Milwaukee Street Bridge, RISE projects, But we also have to come to grips with the fact that just to operate the city's infrastructure on a day-by-day basis, it's important that we replace the capital equipment that's planned for replacement, whether it be within the fire department or wherever. And then I look at the big macro picture of the fact that if you add the stormwater improvements and the roadway improvements that are anticipated within the borrowing schedule, you've now attacked the lion's share of what borrowing is really all about. And those are commitments that this council made a number of years back when we decided to up the ante, as it were, and try and catch up. I like to use the analogy that if you were to look at a chart of where the city's borrowing was as a percentage of our general fund activity going back to 2007, 2008, you'd see that in the midst of the Great Recession, the city put the brakes on just about everything. We're through that Great Recession, and we're a little bit behind the 8 ball, as they would say, in order to catch up for what we didn't do back in those days when we were reactive to the economy as a whole. And I think we've made wise choices. Now we have the obligation to fund those choices. I'm always pleased to see that we're trying to retire that debt that we incur at a rate that is getting closer to break even. And that, to me, is a positive goal that we need to proceed. So I'm going to support the resolution tonight, knowing full well that this is the first round of us taking a hard look at it. When we look at it next, we have the opportunity to delve even deeper into the capital improvement plan and the debt plan. Now's a good time to get out into the marketplace and do some education. And that's not only the obligation, I think, of staff, but it's a huge obligation for council to really pursue that education process. Because municipal finance, as I said at the very beginning, is not an easily understood science. It's a very, very complex endeavor that without a lot of education, it's difficult for folks that just look at the numbers from the perspective of what they hear on radio or read in the paper to put into the right context. So good job, Max.
Yeah, thank you. And just to that point, I think one thing I would like to let the council make them aware of is that this year's issuance, and it's about 56% is new debt for the total CIP. That's the lowest it's been in years, and I think that's really a testament to, one, the council and the foresight. You know, we utilized almost $2 million worth of sanitation fund balance for capital projects, saved $250,000 in interest costs. And staff's done an excellent job getting donations and grants for a RISE program. So we've really diverted how much we could have been borrowing to support this program by several $1 million. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Max, I just want to compliment you on the narrative that you put along with all these numbers, because as I went through the numbers, I had questions that were answered as I kept reading on. So I really appreciate the time that you put into this to make it easier for us to understand.
Okay. Excellent.
Anyone else? We have a motion and by Councilmember Williams, second by Councilmember Gruber to approve. Please vote. And that motion passes with Gruber, Farrell, Conley, Markline, Wolf, Williams in favor, Councilmember Jorgensen opposed. So it passes 6-1. Next item, Common Council announcements. Anyone have any announcements they want to pass on? Seeing none.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. By Councilmember Gruber. Please vote. We're adjourned.